She kicked out the man who raised her for 23 years because she thought he was just a driver. What she didn't know was that Marcus was quietly hiding a secret, a $5 million fortune built from years of sacrifice and hard work. Jessica, now a successful lawyer, had no idea that the very man she was so quick to dismiss was about to change everything and teach her a lesson about family, respect, and true worth. What happens next will leave everyone speechless. Marcus Williams was not just any man. For 23 years, he had been the steady, loving father to Jessica, the young woman he had adopted as a toddler. He worked 3 different jobs to provide her with the life he never had, a life filled with opportunities, education, and hope. From early mornings cleaning offices to late nights driving a cab, Marcus sacrificed every ounce of energy he had so Jessica could chase her dreams. Jessica, now 26, had grown into a sharp, ambitious lawyer. She worked in one of the top firms in the city and lived in an upscale neighborhood, the kind of place where appearances mattered as much as achievements. But somewhere along the way, Jessica had distanced herself from Marcus. The father who had once been her hero was now a source of embarrassment. She rarely introduced him to her friends or colleagues, and when she did, she referred to him simply as my driver or my family helper. Her fiancé, Bradley, came from an even wealthier background, and he shared Jessica's view of Marcus. To Bradley, Marcus didn't belong in their polished, elite world. He was just a man from the working class, someone who didn't fit their social circle or lifestyle. Jessica felt the pressure to conform, to leave behind the past and embrace a future with Bradley that was clean and respectable. She believed success meant shedding anything that reminded her of struggle. But Marcus's heart never wavered. His love for Jessica was unconditional, and his dreams extended beyond their small family. Years ago, Marcus had quietly started saving money, making wise investments, and planning for a future where he could give back in a meaningful way. His vision was to launch a scholarship program for underprivileged youth. Kids who, like Jessica once was, deserved a chance at a better life. To bring his dream to life, Marcus had connected with Harrison Price, a respected lawyer and public relations expert known for helping philanthropic initiatives gain traction. Together, they laid the groundwork for what would become the Marcus Williams Scholarship Fund, designed to open doors for hundreds of young people facing the same hurdles Marcus had overcome. Despite his successes and careful planning, Marcus remained humble and largely unseen. He stayed in the background while Jessica moved further into the spotlight. His sacrifices went unnoticed, his love unacknowledged. But Marcus never gave up hope that one day, Jessica would see beyond social status and material wealth, and understand what really mattered. As Jessica prepared for her upcoming wedding to Bradley, the tension between them and Marcus grew thicker. Jessica's family, friends, and colleagues barely knew Marcus, and she had made it clear she wanted to keep it that way. Bradley insisted Marcus not attend any pre-wedding events, citing social incompatibility and image concerns. Jessica agreed silently, feeling trapped between loyalty to her father and the life she believed she deserved. Marcus watched all of this unfold quietly, his heart breaking but his spirit intact. He knew this was more than rejection. It was a misunderstanding of who he was and what he stood for. But he also knew that sometimes real change requires time, patience, and a moment to show the truth in its full light. Little did Jessica know, the moment of reckoning was closer than she thought. Marcus was about to step out of the shadows and reveal a side of himself that would turn her world upside down. The evening was quiet, almost deceptively calm. Jessica and Bradley had just returned from a dinner party hosted by one of their influential friends, where whispers of Jessica's upcoming wedding filled the room. The couple walked into the lavish house, their smiles masking a growing tension that had nothing to do with the guests. Marcus was waiting in the living room, seated quietly on the worn leather sofa. His eyes, tired but steady, followed their entrance. Jessica's heart tightened, not with warmth, but with something heavier, shame, frustration, and a yearning to keep him at arm's length. Bradley broke the silence first, his tone sharp. "Jessica, we've talked about this. Marcus doesn't belong here anymore. He doesn't fit into our world." Jessica nodded, swallowing hard. The words were not new, but their weight fell heavier in the luxurious house she was trying to call home. "It's not just about appearances, Jessica," Bradley continued, his voice dripping with condescension. Your friends, my family, they wouldn't understand. We have to think about the future. Jessica glanced at her father, the man who had raised her from nothing, the man who had worked tirelessly to give her this future. Marcus, it's time you move out, she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus looked at her calmly, the hurt in his eyes well hidden beneath composed expression. He had expected this moment, perhaps even prepared for it, but the sting was undeniable. I understand, he replied gently. I'll find somewhere else to stay. Jessica felt a pang of guilt, but quickly pushed it aside. This was necessary. This was progress. That night, Marcus packed a small bag and left the home he had helped build for Jessica. There was no argument, no bitterness, just a quiet dignity that even Jessica couldn't deny. Yet behind that calm facade was a storm of heartbreak. But Marcus was not defeated. In the weeks that followed, he focused on the scholarship fund he had been nurturing in secret. The project, now fully underway with Harrison's help, was gaining momentum. Marcus signed a multi-million-dollar agreement with several local businesses and philanthropists to fund scholarships for deserving youth in the community. It was a turning point, not just for fun, but for Marcus himself. The man who had been pushed out of his daughter's life was now on the verge of making a massive impact, one that would soon reach far beyond their fractured family. Jessica, meanwhile, was caught in a whirlwind of social events, wedding planning, and legal briefs. She barely noticed the growing buzz around the scholarship fund, nor the quiet but determined efforts of the man she had cast aside. Then came the invitation, an elegant, embossed card inviting Marcus to be the honored donor at a prestigious charity gala. Jessica's breath caught when she saw the name of the event. The Brooks Country Club annual benefit, the very venue where she and Bradley had planned their wedding. It was a stark reminder that Marcus was still present in their world, just in a way she hadn't anticipated. On the night of the gala, Jessica arrived in a designer gown, confidence radiating. She believed she was in control of her world, her status, her story. But as the evening progressed, a hush fell over the crowd. Harrison took the stage and announced Marcus Williams as the evening's primary donor, responsible for over $2 million in contributions, and with plans to grow to $5.5 million. All eyes turned toward Marcus as he stepped forward, poised and dignified. The room was stunned. Jessica's heart raced, a mix of shock, shame, and confusion swirling inside her. Bradley's face paled. His grip on Jessica's arm tightened. Marcus raised a microphone, his voice steady, resonant. I was kicked out by the person I raised, he began. Not because I failed, but because I was measured by the wrong standards. Success isn't about where you live or who you know. It's about the impact you leave behind. The crowd erupted in applause. Jessica's world shifted on its axis. Marcus smiled softly and concluded, I'm not here to seek revenge. I'm here to show that love, sacrifice, and resilience are worth more than any social circle. Jessica stood frozen, the weight of his words sinking deep. That night, the roles had reversed. The man once overlooked had become the beacon of true success, and Jessica's carefully constructed life began to crumble. The grand hall of the Brooks Country Club buzzed with anticipation. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the polished marble floors, and elegantly dressed guests mingled, sipping champagne and exchanging polite smiles. It was the annual charity gala, an event Jessica had attended many times before, but tonight the atmosphere felt different. Something was shifting beneath the surface. Jessica arrived in a stunning emerald gown, the fabric shimmering under the lights. Her hair was perfectly styled, and her makeup flawless. She smiled confidently as she entered, expecting the usual nods of approval from the crowd. This was her world, a world of privilege, success, and control. Bradley, by her side, whispered reminders about the evening schedule, his eyes flicking nervously toward the stage where the evening speakers would soon begin. But Jessica barely heard him. Her mind was elsewhere. Somewhere deep inside, a faint unease lingered. She couldn't shake the feeling that tonight everything might change. Then Harrison, Marcus's trusted lawyer and public relations expert, stepped up to the podium. His presence commanded immediate attention. Ladies and gentlemen, Harrison began, his voice smooth and confident, tonight, We honor a man whose generosity and vision have transformed countless lives. Marcus Williams, a man of unwavering dedication and resilience, is the primary donor of this year's scholarship program. Murmurs spread through the room like wildfire. Jessica's breath caught. She felt her heart pounding in her chest. Harrison smiled and continued. Marcus has contributed over $2 million so far, with plans to expand at a $5.5 million in the coming years. The spotlight shifted to Marcus as he rose from his seat near the back of the room and made his way to the stage. His posture was straight, his movements deliberate and calm. The man who had been pushed out, dismissed, and disrespected was now commanding the attention of the city's elite. Jessica's eyes widened. Bradley's grip on her arm tightened. Guests turned to stare, whispers growing louder. Marcus took the microphone. The room fell silent. I stand before you tonight not just as a donor, but as a father, he began, his voice steady and strong. For 23 years, I raised a daughter, Jessica, with love, sacrifice, and hope. I worked 3 jobs to give her a better life, believing that one day she would embrace the values I tried to instill. He paused, scanning the crowd, his gaze lingering on Jessica. But she kicked me out, not because I failed her, but because she saw me through a narrow lens, one defined by class, appearance, and status. I was measured by things that never mattered. The room was captivated. Marcus's voice softened, yet every word hit like a hammer. I did not build my life to be judged by superficial standards. I built it to make a difference. He gestured toward a large screen behind him, where images of scholarship recipients flashed. Smiling young faces, grateful families, and thriving communities. This is my true legacy. These are the lives changed by compassion, not judgment, by opportunity, not exclusion. Jessica's cheeks flushed with shame. Her carefully constructed world was crumbling. The man she had rejected was now a beacon of real success and purpose. Bradley looked confused and panicked, whispering urgently, "We need to leave. Now!" But Marcus wasn't finished. He raised his hand, silencing the murmurs. "I'm not here to seek revenge. True strength is not in tearing others down, but in building something so strong and meaningful that no one can ignore it." The room erupted in applause. Some guests stood, inspired and moved. Others stared, stunned. Jessica's eyes welled with tears, not from joy or pride, but from the crushing weight of regret. As Marcus stepped down, head held high, the crowd continued to applaud. He had not only reclaimed his dignity, but redefined the meaning of success for everyone present. Jessica stood frozen, the realization hitting her hard. The man she had dismissed as just a driver was a millionaire philanthropist, a visionary, and the true hero of a night. Later, as the gala wound down, Jessica slipped out quietly, unable to face the eyes that had watched her fall. Bradley followed, muttering about damage control, but Jessica knew this was only the beginning of her reckoning. Marcus had won, not by breaking her, but by rising above, with grace, power, and unwavering love. The weeks following the gala felt surreal for Jessica. The opulent world she had so carefully built, the lavish apartment, the prestigious law firm, the polished social circles, all began to unravel. Rumors about her family's public fallout spread through the city's elite like wildfire. Her colleagues whispered behind closed doors. Her friends cast uncertain glances. Even Bradley, her fiancé, seemed to retreat into a shadow of doubt. One chilly morning, Jessica sat alone in her apartment, the silence pressing heavily around her. Her phone buzzed. Marcus was calling. Her heart skipped a beat, a tumult of emotion swirling inside her. Resentment, shame, longing, confusion. After a deep breath, she answered. "Jessica." Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. "I'm not calling to reopen old wounds or to remind you what happened. I'm calling because I want to offer you something, a chance to start again." Jessica's throat tightened. "What do you mean?" "There's a position at the foundation, a clerk role, entry level. I want you to work with the scholarship program, with the youth. It won't be easy and it won't be glamorous, but it's honest work and it's important." She swallowed hard. Pride urged her to say no, to cling to what little dignity she had left. But something deeper, a flicker of hope, perhaps, nudged her toward acceptance. "I'll think about it," she whispered. Over the next few days, Jessica found herself unable to ignore the invitation. The foundation represented everything she had ignored for years: compassion, humility, service. Finally, she called Marcus back. "I'm in," she said softly. Her first day at the foundation was humbling. Gone were the polished suits and glass towers. Instead, she was greeted by a vibrant, diverse team passionate about making a difference. She met scholarship recipients, bright, eager young people whose lives were shaped by Marcus's generosity. Jessica was assigned to help with administrative tasks, organizing files, coordinating events, connecting with students. It was far from a courtroom battle she was used to, but it grounded her in a way she hadn't anticipated. At first, the students were wary of her. Some remembered the stories about her from the gala, but Jessica was patient. She listened without judgment, asked questions, and shared her own journey honestly. Slowly, trust grew. One afternoon, Jessica sat with a young woman named Tasha, a scholarship recipient struggling to balance school and family responsibilities. As Jessica offered guidance and encouragement, she felt something shift inside her, a new sense of purpose, far beyond her previous ambitions. Months passed. Jessica's world expanded beyond legal briefs and social status. She attended community meetings, helped organize mentorship programs, and even spoke at local schools about perseverance and opportunity. Her relationship with Marcus, once strained and distant, began to heal. They shared honest conversations about mistakes, forgiveness, and the meaning of family. Marcus saw in Jessica not the daughter he had lost, but the woman she was becoming. Meanwhile, Jessica faced setbacks too. The transition was not easy. She grappled with feelings of inadequacy, the sting of lost pride, and moments of doubt. But with each challenge, she found strength in the foundation's mission and in Marcus's quiet support. Bradley, unable to accept her new path, eventually left. It was painful but freeing. Without the weight of his expectations, Jessica could finally breathe. One crisp autumn evening, as Jessica walked to the foundation's offices, she glanced at a framed photo on the wall, Marcus surrounded by scholarship recipients, all smiles and hope. Tears welled in her eyes. In that moment, she called him, and this time, without hesitation, said two words she hadn't uttered in years. "Dad, thank you." Marcus's voice cracked with emotion. Sometimes people have to lose everything to discover what truly matters. Jessica smiled, feeling the warmth of those words settle deep inside her. Her journey had brought her full circle, from rejection and pain to humility, growth, and love. Together, they continue building something stronger than wealth or status, a legacy of empathy, respect, and unbreakable family bonds. Years later, Jessica stood on the stage at Harvard University, the same place where she had once dreamed of proving her worth through ambition and status. But this time, her speech wasn't about courtroom victories or climbing the social ladder. It was about truth, resilience, and redemption. True revenge, she began, is not about destruction or tearing others down. It's about building something so strong and meaningful that those who doubted you can never ignore you again. She paused, glancing toward Marcus in the front row, his eyes shining with pride. When my father was kicked out by the daughter he raised, he didn't crumble. Instead, he built a foundation, literally and figuratively, that has changed thousands of lives. He showed me what real strength looks like. Jessica's voice grew firmer, filled with conviction. Sometimes we measure people by the wrong standards, by money, by status, by appearances. But true value lies in empathy, in kindness, and in the courage to uplift others. The applause that followed wasn't just for her words. It was for the journey they both had taken, from brokenness to healing. After the speech, Jessica found Marcus waiting with open arms. "You did it," he said softly. "We did it," she replied. Their story became a beacon of hope for many, a testament that no matter how deep the wounds of betrayal or prejudice, there's always room for forgiveness, growth, and transformation. Marcus's foundation grew to $15 million, funding scholarships, mentorships, and programs that opened doors for countless underprivileged youth. Jessica completed her degree in social work and dedicated herself to giving back, turning her pain into purpose. And in quiet moments, they both knew that the greatest victory wasn't the money or the accolades. It was a healing of family and the change they sparked in each other. Sometimes the hardest lessons in life teach us the most important truths. That dignity cannot be bought, love cannot be forced, and the courage to rebuild is the strongest legacy one can leave.